Alright, so I wanted to try something new, something different than our usual content. Not that anyone really watches this anyways. So even though it's been out for a while, today I'm going to do my own casual review on Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Age of Calamity takes place 100 years prior to the events of Breath of the Wild during the beginning of the Great War between all of Hyrule against the Calamity Ganon. Sounds simple enough, but what makes this story so interesting is that since it's a prequel to 2017's Breath of the Wild, you're already supposed to know how it's going to end. Everyone dies and you lose against the Calamity. Or so you would think, because they introduced this oddly cute egg-shaped guardian who time travels back in time to attempt to change the future and fulfill Zelda's wish to save everyone.
I must protect everyone.
So yes, if you didn't know, in Breath of the Wild, you play in a post-apocalyptic Hyrule where you do lose the war and everyone dies except for Link and kinda Zelda, I think. It's kind of whatever. But even knowing that, the introduction to this egg makes you question the outcome now. Does this egg actually succeed and we stop the Calamity and win the war? Or was there no point in that we're gonna still lose no matter what? And I really like this. When this game first got announced, everyone was expecting to play a game knowing you're dying the end. But now with the addition of this egg guardian, it got me more invested into the story knowing that this can effectively change the timeline and the upcoming sequel to Breath of the Wild. And really, time travel isn't anything new to the Zelda mythos anyways. So, yeah, I really like it. I'm a huge fan. So even if this is a prequel, I actually do recommend playing Breath of the Wild first. Because in Breath of the Wild, it introduces in more detail what is the Calamity, the Vine Beasts, Guardians, and introduces all the major characters such as the champions. And in Age of Calamity, it expects you to know the lore already, so it briefly only mentions these major plot points. Basically, you understand more what's happening and the weight of the story more if you play Breath of the Wild first.
Now the enemy is clawing for our throat, for Hyrule Castle itself.
So what I like most about Age of Calamity's story is that it gives more personality and depth to the main cast, having them actually interact and bounce with each other. And I love seeing their dynamic as a group rather than just being one-dimensional chosen champions I've shown before. Except for Rivali.
That doesn't add up.
Yeah, he sucks.
Why should this nobody?
And also, I love how Link is a himbo in this game. Like, look at this guy.
I'm Rock Roast.
So the main story actually revolves around Zelda and her rocky relationship with her father regarding her inability to awaken her power to stop the Calamity.
Father thinks that... Well, he thinks that the reason my ability hasn't awakened is because I haven't worked hard enough.
And I really love this part of the story as it really fleshes out Zelda's character and personality as she struggles with the internal conflict of not living up to her father's expectations but still trying to help in any way she can. Age of Calamity is Zelda's story.
Options to do everything that I can.
Alright, yeah, so I like the story, it's pretty good. But what about the gameplay? So, it's a Warriors game, so it has to be repetitive and boring, right? Well, I'm glad to say that is completely wrong. This game is incredibly fun and engaging, and at times it feels like I'm really playing a traditional Zelda game, with just a more fast-paced hack-and-slash gameplay, especially against bosses and captains. I'll talk about that more later. So yes, it is a Warriors game. For those who don't know, it's kind of became its own genre of hack-and-slash action game where you're placed on a map filled with lots of enemies, you must complete a variety of objectives, usually just killing a bunch of enemies, taking camps, and then killing a boss. And you're kind of like a one-man army. But what makes this game feel so good in my opinion is that it does a great job of making you feel not so overpowered. I know that sounds kind of weird, especially for a Warriors game, but hear me out. So usually in Warrior games, you feel extremely powerful and kind of makes the game feel brain dead, which isn't all that bad, it just makes the game feel easy and gets boring fast. But in Age of Calamity, the captain or bosses are a lot tougher than other Warriors games. Doing normal attacks doesn't do a lot of damage, so there's this huge emphasis on breaking their weak points, and in these battles, it really feels like I'm playing a traditional Zelda game. So there's a variety of ways of breaking their weak points. You could just power through and dodge till they eventually get tired. You could parry a perfect dodge them just like in Breath of the Wild, but this is kind of harder to do in this game. The window is a lot tighter and only characters with shields can parry. You also have different elemental rods, fire, ice, and electric, and these rods can make an enemy's weak point break extremely fast. However, these have limited usage and can only be refilled by killing elemental monsters, and it does not refill before or after battle. So you have to actively refill them, which I like a lot, and it makes it feel a lot less overpowered knowing I have to use it sparingly. And then there's my favorite mechanic, the runes. There are 4 runes you use. There's Ice, Stasis, Magnesis, and Bomb. And in Age of Calamity, each character uses the runes differently. For example, Link uses it most similarly as Breath of the Wild. He creates an ice block underneath him, allowing him to jump into the air. And then with his bomb rune, he just throws a bunch of bombs at the enemies. But Zelda uses the ice rune by dropping ice shards, and her bomb rune creates a giant walking bomb shooter, giving Zelda more flexibility and control over her runes compared to other characters. And this is why I think this is so cool, because each character uses the runes differently, that it feels like a natural extension to the moveset, rather than just some basic mechanic added in just to make it feel like a Zelda game.
Be still.
So you use these runes mainly against captains and bosses, and they will prompt a special attack where you must use the correct rune to counter it, and in doing so, triggers its weak point. This is easily my favorite part of the game, as you can get really intense when there are multiple bosses at the same time.
I'll freeze you out.
Alright, cool, so those are the main mechanics in the game. So let's talk about characters. Each character feels incredibly unique and different, and each character has their own mechanic. So of course Link is the basic character. He starts off with his sword and shield, and his mechanic with this weapon is using his bow. It's actually one of my least favorites. It's not that great, but at least you can hit bombs from far away, I guess. But Link can also equip different weapon types such as two-handed swords or spears, each with their own mechanic. For example, when equipped with the two-handed sword, you can damage yourself to do special attacks that extend combos and do more damage. And then you can also eat to recover your health that you just used. Unless you get hit, then you can't recover the health you used up yourself. Zelda, on the other hand, plays extremely unique from any other character. Since she isn't technically a warrior, she uses her iPad to fight, and she has free reign of all the runes in her attacks. Her mechanic is that you can activate all runes in the field, making them explode. So she has these cool setups where you can lay mini ice blocks in one combo and then roll a giant bomb in a different combo, and activating them both doing huge area control. Also, when bosses prompt a rune weakness, she can actually use her normal combos to trigger the enemy's weak point. And this is cool when there are multiple bosses prompting 2 different weaknesses, so you could actually trigger both of their weak points by setting up Zelda's combos. So I also want to talk about my favorite character in the game, Impa. So her mechanic requires a little setup, but if you do it, she is incredibly strong. First, she has to mark her enemies and then collect those marks of a strong attack. Your strong combos can actually collect these marks too, and once you do collect them, she creates clones, which can stack up to 3 times. With this, you have your own little army of Impas, and she does massive damage. She's so strong and prominent in this game and story that it's a shame that she's only shown as an old lady in Breath of the Wild. She is honestly best girl. As for mission variety, yeah, they're about what you expect from a Warriors game, but there are also these Divine Beast missions that give a quick break from normal gameplay, where you pilot one of the Divine Beasts, and this just turns into a destroy everything in your path. It's not the best kind of missions, as they could kind of drag on, but it's a good break from normal gameplay. But even if the missions aren't too drastically different, the gameplay mechanics are so engaging and fun that this isn't really an issue. Oh, and one other thing is this game has a lot of side missions and point of interest. If you're like me who can't ignore these, then this can feel a bit overwhelming. So overall, I really like this game a lot. It's the most fun in a Warriors game I've ever played before. Each character feels so unique, and the moveset really expresses their personalities perfectly. The game's inspired mechanics make it stand out from recent Warriors games, and I really enjoy the story focused more on Zelda. I highly recommend this game to anyone who has or hasn't played any Warriors game before. So I'm not going to do a number score since this is just really my personal take and thoughts of the game, but yeah, I think play Age of Calamity. It's a fun game. Okay, thanks. Bye.